My name is Deborah, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a school teacher in a small town called Maplewood. I always believed that being honest and kind to others was the right way to live, but sometimes life has other plans for you. It all started on a Tuesday morning when I woke up to find my husband, Kevin, acting strange. He was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his phone with a worried look on his face. Kevin worked at the local bank as a manager, and he usually left for work with a smile and a kiss goodbye. But that morning was different. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked as I poured myself a cup of coffee. Kevin looked up at me with cold eyes. "We need to talk tonight when I get home from work." My heart skipped a beat. Those words never meant anything good. I spent the entire day at school, wondering what could be wrong. Did I forget to pay a bill? Did something happen at his work? I tried calling him during lunch, but he didn't answer. When Kevin came home that evening, he wasn't alone. My mother-in-law, Patricia, was with him. She lived just 2 streets away in the same neighborhood called Birchwood Gardens. Patricia had never really liked me much, and seeing her serious face made my stomach turn. "Deborah, sit down," Kevin said in a tone I had never heard before. I sat on our old blue couch, feeling like I was about to be put on trial. Kevin and Patricia sat across from me, both looking angry and disappointed. "I know what you've been doing," Kevin said, his voice getting louder. "And I'm tired of your lies." I felt confused and scared. "What are you talking about? What lies?" Patricia leaned forward and pointed her finger at me. "Don't act innocent, young lady. We know about the money." "What money?" I asked, my voice shaking. Kevin pulled out his phone and showed me his bank account. $3,000, Deborah. $3,000 missing from our savings account. And you're the only other person who has access to it. I stared at the screen, my mouth falling open. The money was indeed gone, but I had no idea how or when it disappeared. "I didn't take any money," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Stop lying." Kevin shouted, standing up from his chair. "The bank records show that the money was withdrawn using your card 2 days ago at 2:30 in the afternoon." But that was impossible. I was teaching my 4th grade class at 2:30 on Sunday. Wait, no. Sunday was the weekend. I was at home doing laundry and cleaning the house. But I certainly wasn't at any bank. "Kevin, I swear on my mother's grave that I didn't take that money. There has to be some mistake." Patricia shook her head. "The bank doesn't make mistakes like that, dear." Kevin checked with them twice. I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. But I was here at home on Sunday afternoon. I was doing housework all day. "Can anyone prove that?" Kevin asked. I thought hard, but I realized I had been alone all day. Kevin had gone to play golf with his friends, and I had spent the day by myself cleaning and organizing our closets. I was alone, but that doesn't mean I took the money. Kevin's face turned red with anger. "So you have no proof of where you were, and my money is gone. What am I supposed to think?" Over the next hour, they kept asking me the same questions over and over. Where was I? What did I do with the money? Why was I lying? No matter how many times I told them I was innocent, they wouldn't believe me. Finally, Patricia stood up and looked at me with disgust. "Kevin, I think you need to consider if this is the kind of person you want to be married to." After they left, I sat alone in my living room, crying and feeling more confused than ever. How could money just disappear from our account? And why did the bank records show my card was used when I knew I hadn't used it? I decided to call my best friend Rachel to talk about what happened. Rachel had been my friend since high school, and she always gave me good advice. "That's really weird, Deborah," Rachel said after I told her everything. "Have you checked to see if your card is still in your wallet?" I ran to get my purse and looked inside. My bank card was right there where it always was, but something felt wrong. I looked at it more closely under the light. "Rachel," I said, my voice shaking, "I think this card looks different somehow." "What do you mean different?" I compared it to Kevin's card, which was still on the kitchen table. The color seemed slightly off, and the numbers looked a little blurry. "I think someone made a fake copy of my card," I whispered. "Who would do that?" Rachel asked. Before I could answer, I heard Kevin's car pulling into the driveway. He was back, and he sounded angry as he slammed the car door. Kevin burst through the front door, his face red with rage. "I just got off the phone with your sister, Amy. She said some very interesting things about you." My heart started beating fast. Amy was my older sister, and we hadn't spoken in months after a silly argument about whose turn it was to visit our elderly father. "What did Amy say?" I asked, though I was afraid to hear the answer. "She said you called her last week asking if you could borrow money. She said you sounded desperate and that you were crying." I felt like the world was spinning around me. "Kevin, I never called Amy. We haven't talked since Christmas. Stop lying to me." Kevin screamed. "She said you asked for $3,000 because you had gotten into some kind of trouble." I stood up from the couch, my legs feeling weak. "Kevin, I'm telling you the truth. I never called Amy. I would never ask her for money without telling you first." But Kevin wasn't listening anymore. He was pacing back and forth in our living room, running his hands through his hair. "My own wife," he muttered. "My own wife is a liar and a thief." Those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had never stolen anything in my life. I had always been honest with Kevin about everything. But now the two people closest to me thought I was a criminal. "Kevin, please," I begged. "Something strange is happening here. Someone is trying to make me look bad." Kevin stopped pacing and looked at me with eyes full of hurt and anger. "The only person making you look bad is you, Deborah, with your lies." That night, Kevin slept in the guest room. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out what was happening to my life. Someone had taken our money using a fake copy of my card. Someone had called my sister, pretending to be me. But who would do such a thing? As I was finally starting to fall asleep, my phone rang. It was 11:47 at night. I looked at the caller ID and my blood ran cold. It was Amy. "Deborah," Amy's voice sounded worried. "I just got the strangest phone call. Someone called me pretending to be you, asking for money. But it wasn't your voice." I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. "Amy, what did this person say exactly?" "They said they were in trouble and needed $3,000. But Deborah, the voice was wrong. It sounded like you, but something was off about it." Before I could respond, I heard a loud crash from somewhere in the house. I dropped the phone and ran toward the sound. It had come from the kitchen. When I got there, I found our back door wide open, and the cold night air was rushing in. One of our kitchen chairs had been knocked over, and there were muddy footprints on the white tile floor. "Kevin," I called out, my voice shaking with fear. Kevin came running from the guest room, wearing only his pajama pants. "What happened? What was that noise?" "Someone was in our house," I said, pointing to the open door and the muddy prints. "Look at these footprints." Kevin's face went pale as he stared at the evidence. He quickly locked the door and checked all the windows to make sure they were secure. "Did you see anyone?" he asked. "No, but I was on the phone with Amy. She said someone called her pretending to be me, asking for money. But it wasn't my voice." Kevin looked confused. "What do you mean it wasn't your voice?" "Amy said it sounded like me, but something was wrong about it. Like someone was trying to copy how I talk." For the first time since this whole mess started, Kevin looked like he might believe me. He stared at the muddy footprints and then at my face. "Deborah, do you think someone is trying to frame you?" I felt a tiny bit of hope growing in my chest. "Yes, Kevin, that's what I've been trying to tell you. Someone made a fake copy of my bank card and has been pretending to be me." Kevin sat down at the kitchen table, putting his head in his hands. But who would do that? And why? That was the question that had been bothering me all day. Who would want to hurt me like this? I was just a school teacher who tried to be kind to everyone. I didn't have any enemies, at least none that I knew of. I don't know, I said honestly, but we need to figure it out. The next morning, Kevin called in sick to work, and I got a substitute teacher to cover my class. We spent the day trying to solve the mystery. First, we went to the bank to look at the security cameras from Sunday afternoon. The bank manager, Mr. Wilson, was very helpful. He showed us the video footage from 2:30 p.m. on Sunday. There, on the screen, we could see someone who looked exactly like me walking up to the ATM machine. "That's not me," I said, staring at the screen. Kevin squinted at the monitor. "It looks just like you, Deborah. Same height, same hair color, same clothes." But I knew it wasn't me. I remembered exactly what I had been doing on Sunday afternoon. I had been organizing our bedroom closet and found an old photo album that I spent an hour looking through. "Mr. Wilson, can you make the picture bigger?" I asked. He zoomed in on the person's face. That's when I noticed something that made my heart race. The woman in the video was wearing earrings that I had never seen before. They were small gold hoops, but I only owned silver jewelry. "Look at the earrings," I told Kevin. "I don't own any gold earrings." Kevin looked closer. "You're right. Those aren't your earrings." Mr. Wilson made a copy of the video for us to take home. As we were leaving the bank, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. I kept looking over my shoulder, but I didn't see anyone suspicious. When we got home, Kevin made us some lunch while I called Amy back to get more details about the strange phone call. "Amy, think carefully," I said. "What exactly did this person say when they called you?" Amy was quiet for a moment. They said, "Hi, Amy, it's your sister Deborah. I'm in some trouble and need to borrow $3,000. Can you help me?" "But Deborah, you never call me your sister Deborah. You always just say it's me or it's Deborah." That was true. I had known Amy my whole life. I would never introduce myself to her like that. What else did they say? They said they had gotten into some kind of financial trouble and were too embarrassed to tell Kevin. They asked me not to mention it to anyone. I felt angry that someone had used my relationship with my sister against me. "Amy, I would never ask you for money without talking to Kevin first. You know that." "I know, sweetie. That's why I called you back. Something felt wrong about the whole thing." After I hung up with Amy, Kevin, and I sat down to make a list of everyone who might want to hurt me. The list was very short. I couldn't think of anyone who disliked me enough to do something like this. "What about people at work?" Kevin asked. "Any problems with other teachers or parents?" I thought about my job at Maplewood Elementary School. I got along well with all the other teachers, and most of the parents seemed to like me. There had been one incident earlier in the year with a parent who was upset about her son's grades, but that seemed too small to cause this kind of trouble. "There's Mrs. Henderson," I said slowly. She was angry because I gave her son Danny a C in reading. She said I was playing favorites with other students. Kevin wrote her name down. "Anyone else?" I tried to think harder. "There's also Miss Rodriguez, the new teacher who started this year. She applied for my classroom before I was hired, but I got the job instead. But Kevin, she seems really nice. I can't imagine her doing something like this." "People aren't always what they seem," Kevin said. "What about neighbors? Anyone who might have a problem with us?" I thought about the people who lived on our street in Birchwood Gardens. Most of them were older couples who kept to themselves. There was the Johnson family next door, but they were always friendly when we saw them. "I can't think of anyone," I said, feeling frustrated. That afternoon, Kevin had to go to work for a few hours to handle some important business. I stayed home and decided to look through our mail from the past few weeks to see if there were any clues. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through bills and letters, when I found something strange. There was a letter addressed to me from a company called Easy Credit Solutions. I had never heard of this company before. I opened the letter and read it carefully. It said that I had applied for a credit card with them, but my application had been denied because of problems with my credit score. The letter was dated from 2 weeks ago, but I had never applied for a credit card from Easy Credit Solutions. I had never even heard of them. I felt my hands starting to shake as I realized what this meant. Someone had been pretending to be me for longer than I thought. They had been using my name and personal information to apply for credit cards. I was about to call Kevin when I heard a knock at the front door. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman I didn't recognize. She was tall with dark hair, wearing a business suit. "Can I help you?" I asked through the door. "Hi, I'm Detective Martinez from the Maplewood Police Department. I'd like to ask you some questions about a credit card fraud case." My heart started beating fast. I opened the door and showed her my ID. "Mrs. Johnson told me I might find you here," Detective Martinez said. "She said she saw someone who looked like you acting suspicious in the neighborhood last week." I felt confused. "Someone who looked like me?" "Yes. She said this person was going through mailboxes on your street. When she called out to them, they ran away." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Someone had been impersonating me in my own neighborhood, going through people's mail. "Detective Martinez, someone has been pretending to be me. They stole money from my bank account and have been using my identity." The detective looked interested. "Tell me everything that's happened." I spent the next hour telling her about the missing money, the fake bank card, the phone call to Amy, and now this credit card application. Detective Martinez took notes and asked me lots of questions. "Mrs. Wilson, this sounds like a serious case of identity theft. Someone has gone to a lot of trouble to impersonate you. But who would do this? And why me?" "That's what we need to find out. Do you have any idea who might have access to your personal information?" I thought about it carefully. "Well, I keep my important papers in a filing cabinet in our home office, and I have my purse with me most of the time." "What about at work? Do you keep personal items there?" "I have a desk at school where I keep some things, but it's in a locked classroom." Detective Martinez nodded. "I'd like to dust your filing cabinet and desk for fingerprints, and I'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement." After the detective left, I felt both relieved and scared. I was glad that someone finally believed me, but I was terrified that someone was out there pretending to be me. When Kevin came home from work, I told him about the detective's visit and the credit card letter. "This is getting really serious," Kevin said, looking worried. "Someone has been planning this for a while." "Kevin, I'm scared. What if they do something worse?" Kevin put his arms around me. "We'll figure this out, Deborah. I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first." I felt better knowing that Kevin was on my side again, but I still felt like someone was watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about who could be doing this to me. It had to be someone who knew me well enough to copy my voice and appearance. Someone who had access to my personal information. Around 2 a.m., I heard a strange noise outside. I got up and looked out the bedroom window. In the moonlight, I could see a figure standing at the end of our driveway, just watching our house. I shook Kevin awake. "Kevin, there's someone outside." Kevin got up and looked out the window, but the figure was gone. "I don't see anyone," he said. "They were right there, just standing and watching our house." Kevin checked all the doors and windows again, but everything was locked tight. The next morning, I found something that made my blood run cold. Someone had left a note under our windshield wiper. It was written in handwriting that looked just like mine. The note said, "Stop looking for me, or you'll be sorry." I stared at the note with shaking hands. The handwriting looked exactly like mine, down to the way I made my letter G and crossed my T. But I knew I hadn't written it. "Kevin," I called out, my voice cracking with fear. Kevin came running from the kitchen where he was making coffee. When he saw the note, his face went completely white. "Deborah, this looks exactly like your handwriting," he said, taking the paper from me. "I know it does, but I didn't write it. Someone is copying everything about me." Kevin studied the note carefully. How is this possible? How can someone copy your handwriting this perfectly? I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. I don't know, but we need to call Detective Martinez right away. While Kevin called the detective, I went inside and got a piece of paper to write something in my own handwriting. I wanted to compare it to the threatening note. When I saw them side by side, I felt sick to my stomach. They looked almost identical. Detective Martinez arrived within an hour. She carefully put the note in a plastic bag and took pictures of it. "This is very disturbing," she said. "Whoever is doing this has studied your handwriting very carefully. They probably practiced writing like you many times." "But where would they get samples of my handwriting?" I asked. "Think about places where you write things down. School, work, forms you fill out, letters you've written." I thought about all the papers I graded at school and the forms I filled out at the bank. There were so many places where someone could have seen my handwriting. "Detective Martinez, I'm really scared. What if this person tries to hurt me? I'm going to have a police car patrol your neighborhood more often. And I want you to be very careful about where you go and who you talk to." After the detective left, Kevin and I decided to stay home for the rest of the day. I called the school and told them I needed another day off. Kevin also called his bank and said he couldn't come in. Around lunchtime, my phone started ringing. It was my father. "Deborah, honey, I just got a very strange call from someone claiming to be you," he said, sounding confused. My heart sank. "Dad, what did they say?" "They said you were in the hospital and needed money for medical bills. They asked me to wire $2,000 to some account. But sweetie, you sound fine right now." I felt anger building up inside me. Now, this person was targeting my elderly father, trying to scare him and steal his money. "Dad, that wasn't me. Someone is pretending to be me and trying to steal money from our family." "Who would do such a thing?" my father asked. "I don't know, but please don't send any money to anyone, even if they sound like me. If I ever really need help, I'll come see you in person." After I hung up, Kevin and I sat in silence for a while. This person wasn't just trying to frame me for theft anymore. They were actively trying to hurt my family and steal from the people I loved. "We need to figure out who's doing this," Kevin said, "before they hurt someone else." I decided to call my school and talk to the principal, Mrs. Patterson. Maybe she had noticed something strange or could help me think of who might have access to my personal information. "Oh, Deborah, I'm so sorry this is happening to you," Mrs. Patterson said when I explained the situation. "Let me think about who would have had access to your desk or files. Has anyone been asking questions about me lately?" I asked. Mrs. Patterson was quiet for a moment. "Actually, now that you mention it, there was something odd last week. Miss Rodriguez asked me for your home address. She said she wanted to send you a thank you card for helping her with her lesson plans." Miss Rodriguez, the new teacher who had wanted my job before I got hired. I had tried to be nice to her and help her adjust to the school, but maybe she resented me more than I realized. "Did you give her my address?" I asked. "Yes, I did. Was that wrong?" "I don't know yet, but thank you for telling me." After I hung up, I told Kevin about Miss Rodriguez asking for my address. "That's suspicious," Kevin said. "She would have had access to your classroom and could have seen your handwriting on papers you graded." "But Kevin, she seems so nice. She's always thanking me for helping her and bringing me coffee in the morning." "Maybe that was all an act," Kevin said. "Maybe she was just getting close to you so she could study how you act and talk." The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Miss Rodriguez had been paying very close attention to me ever since she started working at the school. She always asked me personal questions about my life, my family, and even my husband. At the time, I thought she was just being friendly. "We need to tell Detective Martinez about this," I said. But before I could call the detective, my phone rang again. This time it was my sister Amy. "Deborah, something terrible has happened," Amy said, crying. "Someone broke into my house last night and stole my computer and some personal papers." I felt my blood run cold. Amy, do you think this is connected to what's happening to me? I don't know, but they didn't take my TV or jewelry. They only took things with personal information on them. This was getting worse by the minute. Now the person who was impersonating me was also targeting my family members. Amy, you need to call the police right away and change all your passwords and bank information. I already called them. The police officer said there have been several break-ins in the area lately, all targeting personal information instead of valuable items. After Amy hung up, I felt like I was in a nightmare that kept getting worse. Kevin and I decided to drive to the school and look around Miss Rodriguez's classroom to see if we could find any evidence. Maplewood Elementary was almost empty on a Saturday afternoon. I used my key to let us in through the side door. Miss Rodriguez's classroom was right down the hall from mine. What exactly are we looking for? Kevin asked as we stood outside her door. I don't know. Anything that might connect her to what's been happening to me. I tried the door handle, but it was locked. Then I remembered that the janitor, Mr. Phillips, sometimes left his keys in the supply closet. I found them hanging on a hook, and we quietly opened Miss Rodriguez's classroom door. The room looked normal at first glance. There were colorful posters on the walls and student desks arranged in neat rows. But when we got to her teacher's desk, I saw something that made my heart stop. There was a folder on her desk labeled Deborah Wilson Research. Inside the folder were photocopies of papers I had graded, examples of my handwriting, and even a printout of my Facebook profile picture. Kevin, look at this, I whispered, my hand shaking. Kevin opened the folder and saw what I had found. This is definitely her. She's been studying you. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of the folder, there was a piece of paper with my signature practiced over and over again. Someone had been working very hard to learn how to forge my name. We need to call Detective Martinez right now, Kevin said. As Kevin was dialing the detective's number, I looked around the rest of the classroom. In the bottom drawer of Miss Rodriguez's desk, I found something even more disturbing. There was a small digital recorder and a stack of cassette tapes. Each tape was labeled with a different date, and they all had my name on them. I picked up one of the tapes and saw that it was labeled Deborah Wilson, phone call practice, March 15th. Kevin, she's been recording herself practicing to sound like me, I said, showing him the tapes. Kevin's face turned red with anger. She's been planning this for months. Just then, we heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone was coming toward the classroom. Kevin and I looked at each other in panic. Hide, Kevin whispered. We quickly crouched down behind Miss Rodriguez's desk, just as the classroom door opened. I held my breath and tried to stay perfectly still. I heard high-heeled shoes walking across the classroom floor. Then I heard a familiar voice. I know you're in here, Deborah. It was Miss Rodriguez, and she sounded nothing like the sweet, helpful teacher I thought I knew. Her voice was cold and angry. You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? She continued. You had to keep digging and digging until you found the truth. Kevin and I stayed hidden behind the desk, not daring to move or breathe. I worked so hard to get that teaching job, Miss Rodriguez said, her voice getting louder. I have a master's degree in education and 5 years of experience, but they gave it to you instead. Sweet little Deborah with her perfect life and perfect husband. I could hear her moving around the classroom, probably looking for us. Do you know how easy it was to make you look like a thief and a liar? All I had to do was study how you talked and walked and wrote. Then I made myself look just like you. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. I thought framing you for stealing money would be enough to get you fired. But then you had to go and get the police involved. Miss Rodriguez's voice was getting closer to where we were hiding. Now I'm going to have to do something I didn't want to do. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a gun being loaded with bullets. Come out, wherever you are, Deborah. It's time to finish this once and for all. I felt Kevin's hand squeeze mine as we crouched behind the desk. My whole body was shaking with fear. Miss Rodriguez had a gun, and she was looking for us. "I know you found my research folder," she said, her voice echoing in the empty classroom. "You always were too smart for your own good." I could hear her footsteps moving slowly around the room, checking behind each row of student desks. "You want to know the funny thing, Deborah? I actually liked you at first. I thought maybe we could be friends. But then I realized you had everything I wanted, and you didn't even appreciate it." Kevin slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He was trying to call 911, but he had to be very quiet about it. I spent years in college, studying to be a teacher. I worked 2 jobs to pay for my education. And when I finally graduated, I couldn't find a job anywhere. Do you know how that feels? Miss Rodriguez was getting closer to our hiding spot. I could see her shadow moving across the floor. Then I heard about the opening at Maplewood Elementary. I thought this was finally my chance. I prepared for weeks for that interview. I had the perfect lesson plan ready. I remembered the day I interviewed for my job. I had been so nervous, but Mrs. Patterson had been very kind and made me feel comfortable. But they chose you instead. You with your sweet smile and your perfect life. They said you would be a better fit for the school community. Kevin managed to dial 911 on his phone. I could hear him whispering very quietly to the emergency operator. So I decided to apply for the job again this year, thinking maybe someone would quit. But no, you were all so happy and settled. I realized I would have to make my own opening. Miss Rodriguez stopped walking. The classroom became completely silent except for the sound of my heart beating. I spent months watching you, Deborah. I learned how you walked, how you talked, how you signed your name. I even went to the same hair salon as you, so I could make my hair look just like yours. I thought about all the times Miss Rodriguez had complimented my hair or asked where I got it cut. She had been planning this for so long. The hardest part was learning to sound like you on the phone. I recorded our conversations and practiced copying your voice every night. I got pretty good at it, don't you think? Kevin was still whispering to the 911 operator, telling them we were trapped at the school with someone who had a gun. Making the fake bank card was easier than I expected. I have a friend who knows about computers and electronics. He owed me a favor. Miss Rodriguez started walking again, and this time she was heading straight toward the teacher's desk where we were hiding. I thought taking your money would be enough to get you in trouble. Maybe you would get fired, and I could apply for your job. But you just had to play the victim and call the police. I could see her feet now, just a few steps away from where we were crouched. Then I thought if I could make your whole family think you were a liar and a thief, maybe you would just quit and leave town. But you're more stubborn than I thought. Kevin squeezed my hand again and pointed toward the classroom door. He was trying to tell me that we needed to run. So now I have to do something I didn't want to do. I have to make sure you never tell anyone what you found out about me. Miss Rodriguez was right next to the desk now. In a few seconds she would see us. "On the count of 3, Kevin whispered, so quietly I could barely hear him. 1. I got ready to run as fast as I could. 2. I saw Miss Rodriguez's hand reaching around the side of the desk. 3. Kevin and I jumped up and ran toward the door as fast as we could. Miss Rodriguez screamed and started chasing us. "You can't run from me forever, Deborah." We ran down the hallway toward the main entrance of the school. Behind us, I could hear Miss Rodriguez's high heels clicking on the floor as she chased us. "Kevin, she's gaining on us," I said, breathing hard. Kevin grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the staircase that led to the second floor. "We need to hide until the police get here," he said. We ran up the stairs and into the first classroom we found. Kevin locked the door behind us and moved a desk in front of it. "She's going to find us," I said, trying to catch my breath. "The police are on their way. We just need to stay hidden for a few more minutes." We could hear Miss Rodriguez downstairs, opening and closing doors as she looked for us. "Deborah," she called out, "you're only making this harder on yourself." Kevin and I hid behind the teacher's desk in the dark classroom. I was shaking so badly I could barely think straight. "Kevin, I can't believe this is happening," I whispered. "It's going to be okay," he said, putting his arm around me. "We're going to get through this." Suddenly, we heard footsteps on the stairs. Miss Rodriguez was coming up to the second floor. "I know you're up here somewhere," she said. "There's nowhere left to run." She started trying door handles, looking for the classroom where we were hiding. You know what the worst part is, Deborah? I actually started to like living your life. Pretending to be was fun. People were so nice to me when they thought I was you. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. I went to the bank as you, and the teller was so friendly. I called your sister as you, and she was so worried about helping. Everyone loves sweet little Deborah. Miss Rodriguez tried the door handle, but it was locked. "Open this door, Deborah. I know you're in there." Kevin and I stayed perfectly still, not making any sound. I said, "Open this door." Miss Rodriguez started hitting the door with something heavy. The sound echoed through the empty school. "Fine," she said. "I'll just break it down." She started kicking the door. The desk that Kevin had put in front of it was starting to move. Just then, we heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Police sirens were getting closer to the school. "The police are here," Kevin whispered. But Miss Rodriguez wasn't giving up. She kept kicking the door until it finally burst open, pushing the desk out of the way. "Found you," she said, pointing the gun at us. Miss Rodriguez looked different now. Her hair was messy, and her eyes looked wild and scary. She didn't look like the sweet teacher I thought I knew. "You ruined everything," she said. "I had the perfect plan, and you ruined it." "Miss Rodriguez, please put the gun down," I said, my voice shaking. "You don't want to hurt anyone." "Yes, I do," she said. "I want to hurt you the same way you hurt me." "I never hurt you," I said. "I tried to be your friend." "You took my job," she screamed. "You took the life that should have been mine." The police sirens were getting louder. They were almost at the school. "It's over," Kevin said. "The police are here. Just put the gun down." Miss Rodriguez looked toward the window where we could see police cars pulling into the school parking lot. "No," she said. "I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to lose everything because of you." She raised the gun and pointed it directly at my face. "If I can't have your life, then you can't have it either." Just as she was about to pull the trigger, we heard a loud voice from downstairs. "This is the police. The building is surrounded. Come out with your hands up." Miss Rodriguez's hand was shaking as she held the gun. She looked scared and confused. "They're not going to understand," she said. "They're going to think I'm the bad person." "You are the bad person," Kevin said, stepping in front of me. "You tried to destroy an innocent person's life." "I'm not bad," Miss Rodriguez screamed. "I just wanted what I deserved." The police were inside the school now. We could hear them searching the first floor. "Miss Rodriguez, please," I said. "It doesn't have to end like this. You can still do the right thing." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "The right thing? The right thing was giving me that job instead of you. Up here." Kevin shouted to the police. "We're up here." We heard footsteps running up the stairs. Miss Rodriguez heard them too. She looked at the gun in her hand and then at me. "If I'm going down, you're coming with me," she said. But before she could pull the trigger, Detective Martinez burst into the classroom with 3 other police officers. "Drop your weapon," Detective Martinez shouted, pointing her gun at Miss Rodriguez. Miss Rodriguez spun around to face the police, still holding her gun. "You don't understand," she said to the officers. "She stole my life." "Drop the gun now, or we will shoot," Detective Martinez said. Miss Rodriguez looked back and forth between the police and me. She was trapped, and she knew it. I worked so hard, she said, starting to cry. I just wanted to be a teacher. You can still be a teacher, Detective Martinez said in a calm voice. But you need to put the gun down first. For a moment, it looked like Miss Rodriguez might surrender. She lowered the gun slightly and looked at the floor. But then she looked up at me with pure hatred in her eyes. This is all your fault, she said. She raised the gun one more time, but this time she didn't point at me. She pointed it at herself. No, I screamed, jumping forward. Don't do it. For a split second, everyone in the room froze. Miss Rodriguez looked surprised that I was trying to stop her from hurting herself. Why do you care? She asked, tears streaming down her face. I tried to ruin your life. Because this isn't who you really are, I said, taking a small step toward her. You're a teacher. Teachers help people. They don't hurt them. Detective Martinez and the other officers kept their guns pointed at Miss Rodriguez, but they let me keep talking. You're right that you worked hard to become a teacher, I continued. I can see how much it meant to you, but this isn't the way to solve your problems. Miss Rodriguez was shaking as she held the gun. But I've lost everything now. I'll never be able to teach again. I'll go to jail. Maybe, I said honestly, but if you hurt yourself, you'll never have a chance to make things right. Kevin was standing behind me, ready to pull me back if Miss Rodriguez became dangerous again. You could have been a good teacher, I said. You're smart and creative. I saw the lesson plans you made. They were really good. Miss Rodriguez looked confused. You looked at my lesson plans? Yes, when I was trying to help you learn how our school works. You have talent. You just let your anger and jealousy take over. Detective Martinez slowly lowered her gun. Miss Rodriguez, Mrs. Wilson is right. This doesn't have to end badly for you. But I committed crimes, Miss Rodriguez said. I stole money and broke into people's houses. Yes, you did, Detective Martinez said, but you haven't killed anyone. If you surrender now, we can work something out. Miss Rodriguez looked around the room at all of us. Why are you all being nice to me? I tried to destroy Deborah's life. Because everyone deserves a second chance, I said. Even people who make big mistakes. Miss Rodriguez slowly lowered the gun until it was pointing at the floor. I'm so sorry, Deborah. I'm so sorry. Detective Martinez quickly moved forward and took the gun from Miss Rodriguez's hand. The other officers put handcuffs on her, but they were gentle about it. Maria Rodriguez, you're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, breaking and entering an assault with a deadly weapon, Detective Martinez said, as they led Miss Rodriguez out of the classroom. She looked back at me one more time. I really am sorry, she said. I hope someday you can forgive me. I nodded at her. I hope you can get the help you need. After Miss Rodriguez was taken away, Kevin and I sat in the empty classroom for a few minutes, trying to process everything that had happened. I can't believe it's over, Kevin said, putting his arm around me. I can't believe she was so angry about not getting my job that she was willing to ruin my life, I said. Detective Martinez came back into the classroom to check on us. Are you both okay? She asked. We're fine, Kevin said. Just shaken up. Mrs. Wilson, I have to say, what you did back there was very brave. You probably saved Miss Rodriguez's life. I thought about that. Even after everything she had put me through, I was glad she was still alive. Maybe someday she really could get help and become the teacher she wanted to be. Over the next few weeks, the truth about what Miss Rodriguez had done spread through our small town. The bank gave us back the $3,000 she had stolen, plus extra money for all the trouble she had caused. My family felt terrible about not believing me at first, but I forgave them. They had been tricked by someone who was very good at pretending to be me. Miss Rodriguez went to court and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But the judge also ordered her to get counseling for her anger and jealousy problems. I hoped the counseling would help her learn better ways to deal with disappointment. The school district offered me a new security system for my classroom and a raise in my salary. They felt bad that one of their employees had caused me so much trouble. But the best part was that Kevin and I were closer than ever. Going through this scary experience together had made our marriage stronger. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you from the beginning," Kevin said one evening as we sat on our couch. "You were just looking at the evidence," I said. "She made it look very convincing. But I should have known you would never steal money or lie to me. I've been married to you for 5 years. I know what kind of person you are." I leaned against Kevin's shoulder. "Well, now you know for sure." A few months later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Miss Rodriguez, writing from prison. "Dear Deborah," the letter said, "I am writing to apologize again for what I did to you. I have been going to counseling sessions, and my therapist is helping me understand why I became so angry and jealous. I realize now that you never did anything wrong. You got the teaching job because you were the best person for it. I let my disappointment turn into hate, and that was wrong. I hope someday I can make up for the pain I caused you and your family. I am studying to get better, and maybe when I get out of prison, I can be the kind of teacher who helps students instead of hurting people. Thank you for stopping me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Sincerely, Maria Rodriguez." Reading that letter made me feel hopeful. Maybe Miss Rodriguez really could change and become a better person. I wrote her back and told her that I forgave her. I also sent her some books about teaching that I thought might help her prepare for a better future. The whole experience taught me something important about revenge. Miss Rodriguez thought that hurting me would make her feel better about not getting the job she wanted. But revenge only made her more angry and got her into bigger trouble. Real justice isn't about hurting people back when they hurt you. Real justice is about making things right and helping people learn from their mistakes. Today, I'm still teaching at Maplewood Elementary School. I love my job and my students. Kevin and I are happier than ever, and we've learned to trust each other completely. Sometimes I think about Miss Rodriguez and wonder how she's doing. I hope she's learning and growing and preparing for a better life when she gets out of prison. My family learned an important lesson too. They learned that they should believe in me and support me, even when things look bad. Love means trusting the people you care about, especially when it's hard. The whole town of Maplewood also learned something. They learned that you never really know what's going on in someone's heart. Miss Rodriguez seemed like a nice, sweet teacher on the outside, but inside, she was full of anger and jealousy. Now, when new teachers come to work at our school, we make sure to help them feel welcome and valued. We don't want anyone to feel left out or angry like Miss Rodriguez did. I also started a support group for people who have been victims of identity theft. Detective Martinez helps me run it, and we teach people how to protect themselves and what to do if someone steals their identity. The most important thing I learned is that being kind to others is always the right choice, even when they've been mean to you. When I chose to help Miss Rodriguez instead of letting her hurt herself, it didn't just save her life. It also helped me feel better about myself. Kindness is more powerful than revenge. It can change people's hearts and make the world a better place. And sometimes when you choose to be kind instead of getting revenge, you get the best reward of all. You get to keep being the good person you've always been, no matter what anyone else does to you. As I tell my students every day, treat others the way you want to be treated, even when it's hard, even when they don't deserve it, because in the end, being good to others is really about being good to yourself. That's the kind of person I want to be. That's the kind of teacher I want to be. And that's the kind of life I want to live. The truth really did set me free. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all.